Homeless Training. I'm Carl Hetler, Coordinator of Homeless Outreach for the City of South Bend, and we're joined today by Sheila McCarthy, the Executive Director of New Day Intake Center and the current Motels for Now. Welcome, Sheila. Wondering if you can tell us about an overview of what Motels for Now currently is providing to people in our community.
Absolutely. Thanks, Carl. Glad to be here with you. Motels for Now started in the summer of 2020, and in that nearly 5.5 years since then, we've had almost 900 guests come stay with us. So we're looking for the hardest to house people that are in doorways, that are living in the woods, that are really disengaged from all services. So developing trust, bringing people in off the street so they can gain stability, and having a door that locks, have access to their own shower and space that they share with just one other person. And then it's a process of reuniting those connections to the rest of what's available, getting people their documents, getting them medical care, getting them psychiatric care, getting them medication, getting food stamps, and getting on all the available lists for housing, and then moving people into housing and continuing to support them there. So 77% of our guests are doing well, either finding stability with us currently or on to better options of their choosing.
That's great. So of that breakdown of the 900 guests that you've had, you house currently between 115 and 120. How many are in different housing here locally that you're doing follow-up with, and how many are connected back with family and friends and other living arrangements?
Yeah, so we've moved 286 people into housing ourselves. About 70% of those are still housed today in the same places. Others have moved on, found other places themselves, or several have passed away. But one thing we're excited about is that 81% of our folks that we house are not returning to homelessness within the first year. And then if you make it to that 1 year mark, 85% will make it to 3 years. So it really is a permanent path out of homelessness for the vast majority of people. So that's exciting. So we house a lot of people ourselves, but more than that number find their own next best step. So just a little bit of stability helps to strengthen relationships among family or friends, or estranged others in people's lives, and so they're often able to work out their own living situation from there. So as much as we're able to do, that same number has done that themselves.
That's wonderful to see that positive impact that housing has for people's lives and all the ways it impacts them. I know two questions you often ask when you're interviewing people or welcoming them in is, what high school did you attend, and what's your last zip code where you lived? What kind of responses and numbers do you see from that?
Yeah, so we asked that because there was a persistent misperception that people were coming from out of the area to be homeless in South Bend. And so we've shown that's not the case. Just about everyone is from right here. We hear Riley High School most commonly for people under 45, and LaSalle High School for people over 45.
Yeah.
And so both that people grew up here. We ask, where did you attend ninth grade? And then also, where's the last zip code where you resided? And then we chart both of those to show that taken together, it's 90% of the folks are from right here. So I think there's some visibility of the 10% that are not, that are are coming from out of town in any given year, is maybe 50 people out of the 500 people that sign up on our wait list every year. Is about 50 coming from out of the area, and because they don't know, they don't have this lifetime of connections, they tend to be more visible. Um, so that's my best understanding of it so
Yeah,
far.
that's a great explanation. You've given us some helpful statistics to understand the tremendous impact you've had over the past 5.5 years. I'm wondering if you can share maybe one or two anonymized stories of success that you've seen for people, how they've been impacted by your high access housing program.
Hmm. Yeah, by being high access, we're able to take people in wheelchairs, we're able to take people with pets, we're able to take people with untreated mental illness or with untreated addiction issues and work on all those things once they're with us, once they have a door of their own, and then we're not going to leave them alone. We're going to make sure we see each person and talk to each person every day. Um, and develop a rapport and a relationship with each person. Um, but one person that came to us in a wheelchair uh, had his toes taken by frostbite, which is happens happens regularly when people are staying outside for long periods. Um, so came to us in a wheelchair and really was kind of at a loss, and over time and trust of getting documents, being able to go to getting copies of his birth certificate, copies of his ID, and able to go to treatment for his um, for for his feet, is able to move from wheelchair to boot, and a boot to a walker, and a walker to a cane, and then was walking great, which helped his confidence. And he's been housed for um, over 2 years now, and has been working a part-time job.
Wow.
Uh, so it's possible. Um, yeah, we've had probably over a dozen amputees with us, and one that was with us is like we can do kind of all this work to get people a prosthetic and get them comfortable with it, but then it wasn't till after, it's like going to addiction treatment was a big step in uh, being able to take a new direction and kind of growing in confidence to be able to do the hard work, such hard work,
Mhm.
learning to walk again. So I think both of those sort of wheelchair to walking stories stay
Yeah.
with me as what's possible in a high access
Yeah, a
setting.
great physical picture of the life transformation that you're helping many people experience. Seeing that happen is
Mhm.
powerful. Well, our theme today is talking about de-escalation strategies and tips that we all can use in encountering people who have been through various traumas and difficulties, as you often experience day to day with your residents. So I'm wondering if you can start by talking about what are some of the examples of crises or problematic behaviors that you see regularly with people you're working with in helping them in some of the first steps of finding healing and stability in their lives.
Yeah, when people are staying outside, they have to be on alert all the time. Um, and because it's not a safe environment. And so it's a process of learning to be um, calm and centered uh, over time. So when people first arrive, then they're kind of quick to anger, quick to take offense, um, and because of all that they've been through, and this sense that there's no um, structure for them, that all they have is their own ability to stand up for themselves and assert their, if not their dominance, that they won't be pushed around. So it's a gradual learning that gets to happen, and is really exciting to watch as people realize that they don't have to react in the same way, that they will be treated with unconditional positive regard by our staff at all times, and will have a room to retreat to. If they're not getting along with their roommate, we'll get them into a different room. And yeah, we'll hear their concerns and complaints, and we'll be on their side. That's all that we do, is all day long communicate that we are on the side of our guests.
Yeah, being calm and centered, and as you describe it, unconditional positive regard are great goals. What does that look like in terms of nonverbal strategies? How do you present and act around people to communicate those important values?
Yeah. And most of it is nonverbal, as you said, that it's your presence towards someone that communicates much more than your words ever will. Um, so so acknowledging each person you pass as you're walking around the campus, calling them by name, um, having an interaction with them, but just being a positive, friendly presence in their life, um, as the baseline. So then it's having, we make sure the staff knows every person. We have 5 new people each week to learn to. And it's like the love language is appropriate for the work that we do. So lots of acts of service, lots of fist bumps, for touch, lots of compliments, and sharing things from our food pantry. So we use that as kind of baseline rapport building, and then so that when there are these instances of conflict, we're not starting from, this isn't a stranger in the street that we're approaching to try to do this with. This is someone we have a lot of trust with, what Ryan Dowd calls pennies. We've built up this rapport so that if we're asking someone to do something, they're very willing to do it, because they know we have this relationship. So if there is a conflict, and kind of stepping in to talk to the person that is less worked up at the moment, to get them away from the situation, to try to get them to unplug from it. So it's providing a physical presence, making eye contact with the person that's not, that's less worked up about it, and getting them away from it is the big thing. But even if to avoid, because as we said, people are very sensitive, so making sure we don't do anything that could be perceived as disrespectful. So having a kind of opening stance, not standing face to face with someone, not standing close to them, but giving people a lot of room, and having standing a little bit to the side, so that there's a kind of natural flow and ability to talk in a way that can't be perceived as confrontational or in any way. So that's the first thing in terms of nonverbal, is just the way we stand, and of not having our arms crossed, but have them, either in front of us or down by our side, or something that's that again can't be perceived as confrontational or disrespect, conveying disrespect in any way.
Those are all really helpful strategies that we can all apply in the work when we come across people who've experienced the trauma, especially being unhoused on the streets. So thanks for sharing those. I know one of the other things Ryan talks about when you mention friendliness is the Pygmalion effect. That even if we've had negative interactions with someone in the past, if we give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that today is a new day and that we can be friendly and have hope to have a positive interaction, that people often lived up to that expectation. That
Hmm.
we shouldn't allow ourselves to be negative and assume things will be worse or as bad as they have been in the past, because then often people live down to that. But that friendliness that you described is so important to give people a new chance, a new opportunity when it's a new day that we get to interact with them.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't sort of hold things over or have a try not to have a fear carried over. If there's someone, we tap each other out. If there's someone that is is more ready to take on a difficult person in that moment for whatever reason, after giving it a good try. But yeah, of even in asking, when we have to ask people to take a break from our program, and we always call it a break, and not, we don't say that we're kicking you out, or uh, you're dismissed or something like that. But it's like, no, we need to take, you're welcome back. We can try again. We want to try again, but for right now, for everyone's safety and well-being, it's important that you are not here. And we're able to do that in a way that preserves the relationship, which has been pretty incredible to watch, that it's been so built up that even in, one of the very hardest parts of the job for us, who are trying to get people off the street, we have to send someone back because of their behavior, then that can feel really difficult. But because of that relationship, it makes it, we know we're going to continue to see them. Um, we want those interactions to go well. So it's amazing how it's able to be done
Yeah.
successfully.
Because you, as you mentioned earlier, you've seen over 900 people and you've helped them get into housing. What's the most breaks that you've had a resident take that you're still willing to work with them and have them come back again?
Oh gosh. We have just 20 20 people that have been with us 6 or more times.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
So you're
and
truly putting that into practice, giving people new opportunities,
yeah,
and giving them another chance.
yeah. And they're all very dear to us too, when we look forward to having them try again. It is, each successive stay is longer and better than the last, almost to a person and to a stay. So we know it's going to go better the next time they're with us. Um, but it's a minority of people that even have to come back a second
Right.
time, is the other thing. Because we have this small group that's been with us so many times, it's easy to think like, oh, everyone's, you know, coming back and around. And so we have to remind ourselves, that's why we keep such good data, and remind ourselves, no, it's well, the majority of people are just need this once in their life, and then are back into no longer homeless.
And that's often a result of the great de-escalation work your team is doing with all those nonverbal ways to stand and present your body and have conversations with people. What's the average stay for someone at motels for now?
Yeah, it's about 5 months now, 5 or 6 months. People that we put in housing are a bit longer, more like 9 months. That's each individual stay. Um, yeah, in terms of over total stays at the motel, I think the average is just over 6 months.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, people are with us for a big chunk of time. And
That's
that's,
still short compared to the 5.5 years that you've been operating.
yeah, there's very few people that have been with us for, multiple years. Um, Only a handful of those too that have kind of stayed, uh, have have stayed for many years, that have kind of grown and gotten more stable over time, but don't see them, can't quite get into into housing yet. We have a lot of people that are ready for housing that are on wait lists, and we'd be able to move people along quicker if there were options to move people to.
Right. You've given us some great nonverbal de-escalation strategies. I wonder if you could share some verbal sayings or phrases that you find are helpful to help build those connections, establish trust, calm down, lower the temperature on situations. What are some sayings that your staff use that you found helpful to de-escalate?
Yeah, I'll start with one thing that's not helpful that we always notice in reviewing a situation. Whenever someone says, "I tried to explain," or "I tried to tell him," like, oh, that's guaranteed to go very wrong, because whenever you take yourself off of the side of the guest and put yourself in opposition to them, it's not going to go well. So even if you're trying to convey that an expectation has not been met, some boundary has been violated, and some action needs to be taken, it's a skill that can be worked on and improved to be able to convey that information, but from a stance of being on the same side as the guest. So it doesn't, you don't lead with what went wrong. You always lead with openness, with receptivity, with um, hearing the other person out. Um, so instead of, uh, you know, it's never going to go well if you start with trying to explain. But what does work well is any kind of phrase that will put yourself on that person's side. So to say things like, yeah, that really makes a lot of sense, and I hear what you're saying. But you only can say that once you've actually heard them.
Right.
But to affirm their feelings that they're going through as legitimate and valid are the most helpful. And if you can do that, to say that their response is is uh, is one that makes sense, then they will feel that someone is on their side, and then they won't have to be trying to prove themselves in any way, gearing up for this opposition that they feel is coming. So if you have a way to um, convey that you're on the same side, by accepting the other person's emotions, by recalling some shared experience or shared moment, even if you know that you're both in the same place, facing the same weather, or something that conveys that you're with them, then it makes you have to be with them before you can direct them. Otherwise, Ryan Dowd says you can't push a string. You can only pull someone the way you need them to go. So, by being on the same side and moving them along.
And all of that comes from listening, right? You can't understand what someone's going through or the feelings if you don't take time to first listen to them. So that listening
Right.
is often important before we ever speak.
Yeah, exactly. It's another phrase we use a lot from Ryan Dowd, that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. You can often fool yourself in thinking, oh gosh, I don't have the minutes to listen to this person. Um, so I'm just going to go in and I'm going to say, this is what needs to happen. Here's what we're doing. And then it's an explosion. And then the next hour is horrific. Whereas, if you took just the 5 minutes, you could have had a fantastic rest of the day. So it's reminding yourself of that, and it's something we have to, that we remind ourselves of all the time.
You've mentioned that you deal with a lot of different challenges out there with your residents. I'm wondering if there's specific sayings for people who are in a mental health crisis that you use to help de-escalate and calm them down. Have you found that there's phrases that work for people in those situations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I started this, then my perception of people in a crisis or an episode would be that they, that you can't talk to them, that they're not in a receptive space at all. And I've learned that's not the case, that people still are able to receive kindness, still are able to receive affirmation, still are able to perceive if you're with them or if you're against them. So the same things all apply in basically the same manner. A little extra distance, a little bit more readiness to sort of step out of the way, a little noting like, okay, are there things here that could break or be thrown or things like that. But really, I'd take someone in an episode over someone who's very angry any day, because someone who's angry, it's they already have a direction for those feelings, and so it's tapping into the feelings that allows that to diffuse. And someone having an episode, they're very receptive to your acceptance or rejection of how they're feeling. So the same things all apply in those cases. I think too, having not reaching for solutions is also important. Something we say a lot is solutions are escalating. That we have a tendency to say, oh, well, we just do this and we'll fix it. Let's just go get you here. Let's give you this. Let's take this. You do this. And that feels, as we all know in our own experience, whenever we've been upset in our life and someone says, well, why don't you just do this? Or like, you just need to do this. Like, that feels like you're not being heard. If someone has a solution out of what they've heard from you, but we receive it as, this is someone that doesn't get what I'm saying, that they don't care about me, they don't know what's happening. So I think that's the most helpful thing I can say, really, is just think of times in your own life when you've been very upset. And we all have that experience of someone saying to us, like, not receiving our emotions. And we know, in contrast, I hope everyone has had experience of being well cared for when you're very upset, and that always involves someone affirming affirming your response in that moment, affirming the feelings that are behind what's happening. So I think coming out of your own experience there can be most helpful, even when dealing with someone in a mental health crisis.
Yeah, it's important to recognize our own needs from our own experiences, and going back to what you started with, talking about being centered and calm. What are some things that you either do personally to deal with this stressful work, or that you also teach your staff to do so that they can be present and be aware of people's needs and these challenges that you face day to day?
So much of our life is breath. And when we're upset, we're not breathing out fully. So that makes things worse. If you're exhaling, when we sleep, our exhale is twice as long as our inhale, and that's a very calming pattern to be in. So just encouraging our staff and our guests to exhale, to be able to let all the breath go, and even take a pause at the end of that exhale before inhaling. And doing that just a few times transforms one's nervous system. So breath work is the simple answer of being
Would you
mindful.
take a minute right now just to lead us through a sample of how we might spend a minute taking deep breaths and pausing?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Yeah, so everyone can sit up a bit straighter from wherever you are. And inhale through your nose for a count of 4. And exhale for a count of 8. And inhale for 4. And exhale for 8. We'll try that 3 more times. Just keep going. And one last time. And maybe you didn't come into this feeling anxious or stressed, but it's a beautiful way to, yeah, as Carl said, spend a minute or even a half minute remembering that our breath is all that is keeping us from achieving a different state. And this is also the case if you're feeling very sleepy. You can, if you're falling asleep in a meeting, then you can do the opposite of inhaling and holding your breath for, and then exhaling. Then that will feed oxygen to your brain. So these are things I learned as a yoga teacher in training that have really become very, very important for my life and my work, and helping the staff meet our challenges with calm presence.
That's great. That's beautiful. Thanks for modeling that for us. Last question. I know you've been at the current location temporarily for the past 5.5 years. Give us an update now in February of 2026 of where plans are for the New Day Intake Center, the permanent location.
Yeah, we've finished our design drawings. We're working on the construction drawings. We've chosen colors for the new place. We're working on, do we really need this truss here or this, or can we save a little money if we cut the office space down by a few feet? So we're doing all the final details there. We are raising funds to be able to build it all this year. So New Day Intake Center, newdaysouthbend.org. You can find us to support that. So we're hopeful this time next year that we'll be putting the finishing touches on everything and be planning our move over in the springtime. Feels like a lot to happen this year, but we've had other big years. So.
Oh, wonderful. Well, again, thank you, Sheila McCarthy, Executive Director of the New Day Intake Center, for taking this time to talk with us about your important work and this theme of de-escalation.
Thanks, girl.